Oh, yeah. A Tuesday afternoon would not be complete without going to Knoxville and saying hello to our man, Knoxville sports talk show host, Tony Basilio from his, I was going to say mansion. Abode. I like that. From your abode. So you got to help me with this because you know the lay of the land here better than I do. Rick Barnes has so many good qualities about him. And there's no doubt that he has gotten this program to a certain level. But Saturday, when they weren't able to knock down the Kentucky door, you heard a lot of the he can't ever win the big one, blah, blah, blah. How much of that gets put out there in Knoxville?
Our postgame show was unbelievable. I mean, I told the audience the other day, look, I don't tell anybody how to think. It's just not my style. I mean, and we can only give our opinion. And then I had some people today, because we got into it a little bit today. People said, which, George, this had slipped my mind, but after the Grant and Admiral year where Tennessee was number one for several weeks, and then they got beaten around the 16 by Purdue, it was a great season for the Vols. Team probably should have done a little more. Barnes has been marked by his inability to win in the postseason, which is one of the reasons why Texas fans got kind of bored with him. Veteran coaches say after 10 or so years, they get tired of your speeches, they get tired of your magic tricks. And for most guys, it's time to move on down the road. But after that year, he openly flirted with UCLA. Not only did he openly flirt with UCLA, but he told the Tennessee media that if UCLA would have paid his buyout, he would have left. Now, I don't think that's a very intelligent thing to say out loud, personally. Because once you do, how do you come back from that? There are always going to be people that are going to circle that or underline that. And that's not something that gets underlined in pencil. That's in pen. That's in bold point. When a coach says, if that school over there would have paid my buyout, I wouldn't be here right now. It's really just a not smart thing to say. And I thought Tennessee fans really overreacted to what happened with Kentucky the other day. Because as we know, you play 30 some odd of these games and, you're judged by what you do in March. You're not judged by a January basketball game against Kentucky in Knoxville. I thought our fans way overreacted here.
When you watch him, there are a lot of strengths to him. He seems like from afar a really respectable person, really respectable coach, thought of well in the business. Is there a weakness that is obvious? And I guess I'm going to throw this theory out there that you hear that, look, he doesn't put up with a lot of crap. And I admire that. But is there a point of diminishing returns when you get toward March?
I don't know. I mean, that'd be a great question for Watson. To me, basketball is a rhythmic sport. And the guys down through the years that have figured out are the ones that know when to, with a horse, when to use the whip, and those that know when to pull it off. And Barnes is pretty hardcore. I mean, he loves accruing regular season wins. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think everybody loves winning, don't they? Last time I checked. But, boy, I'll tell you, we were looking up today. His number is unbelievable. Like tonight, Tennessee plays the second of two with Mississippi State. His number is unbelievable in those second games. And then, we were talking about Kentucky. Since he's been here, Tennessee's never had a losing season to the University of Kentucky. And they've played them a few times. And when they play them 3 times, they beat them in March. And so, or he beats them twice during the regular season and Kentucky beats them in March. But he's never been on the downside of the Kentucky series. So he knows what he's doing. I just think, March basketball, some guys have a knack for it. Some guys don't. For whatever reason, he just doesn't have a knack for it.
Okay, Watson, you kind of step in here because I know you've had this theory a little bit, if memory serves me correctly, that maybe he gets to March and the message and the way he delivers it seems to get old.
That's what Ronnie B is big on that one, George. And I think Tony, I know Coach Barnes. I really like him. I respect him as much as I like him, tell you the truth. My brother was with him at Texas, absolutely loves him. Just absolutely loves him. What I see in Coach Barnes, Tony, he coaches the basketball team like a football coach, which I absolutely love. And I'm not sure that as the year goes on, that football coach mentality might wear on them a little bit. He makes them play. If I've seen one thing that I don't know how you get past, he makes them play so hard all the time. And if you're not playing hard, your butt is out of there. I mean, he'll jerk one off the floor in a heartbeat if he thinks they're not hustling. We did that in football all the time. I mean, you might not know it because 2 or 3 coming on and off the field out like every other play. So, but man, if I ever saw one out there that didn't hustle to the ball or whatever, he's out of the game on the spot. And he wouldn't come to me because he knew why he came out. And that's what I see in Coach Barnes. And I just wonder sometimes if that all-out mentality all the time. See, you only do it 12, 13 times, 14, 15 now. It's fixing to get more. And yet you're doing it twice a week instead of once a week in basketball. And I just wonder, Tony, sometimes if that doesn't at some point wear on the kid a little bit.
And my answer to that would be you're dealing with a veteran coach, right? Who
Yeah.
knows he's not good in March.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think at some point that if you're him, you would evaluate, right? And say, okay, am I too hardcore? Do I need to dial it back a little bit? I mean, the other day, guys, Tennessee got beat by Kentucky because they couldn't make layups. They were 10 of 21 in the game. And I just think it's weird that we're having a conversation about March after Tennessee loses to Kentucky in January. Now, I'm not saying it's not a worthwhile conversation because I think it's certainly a worthwhile conversation. But I just wonder sometimes, Watson, with coaches like him that are super successful, if you can tell them anything.
We all can be our own worst enemy. I own up to that.
Yeah.
I own up to it myself. And some of and not to say I was one of those great coaches, but I'm a coach.
Yeah.
That I would be hard-headed as the Dickens. I wouldn't even listen to my assistants at times.
Yeah.
I look back on it now, 46 years later, Tony, and I say, that's kind of stupid. Let them talk it out. Listen to them, then make up your mind instead of just cutting it off. And that hurts in 2 ways. Number one, you're not getting a second opinion. Number two, the attitude you're giving that guy is, well, don't do that again. So you're cutting your coaches off when you do that. He's smart as a tack. I don't personally know that March isn't just luck of the draw. Sometimes you get in these dang games, man, and they go to the wire. Most of them do nowadays.
Yep.
And you don't win them. The one thing through the years with him, I've seen it big time at Tennessee. When they lose, it's never on defense. When they lose, it's on offense. They just can't score in days.
Right.
And it seems like some of Rick's teams, Tony, when they can't score, they can't score. I mean, it's not like, we're 40% today. We're 35%. Man, sometimes it's like missing all those layups. And the second thing I want you to comment on, Kentucky has got good players, man. When they come to play like they did the other night, I don't know who would have beat them. Anybody, because they were into it. And they played the way I think Kentucky's got to play. All out. We talked about this earlier in the week. Just balls out, man. I mean, They don't have shooters. They're not what they usually are. They got a bunch of athletes, and you get them playing hard, and you get them guarding like that, and you get them rebounding, and you're rolling them in and out of a game, and you're playing 12, 13 guys, and their egos will let you do that, you can beat people that way too. And that's what Kentucky did the other night. Anybody was going to have trouble with that Kentucky team the other day now, as hard as that bunch played.
Well, and that's the truth. So, and Calipari said, look, because Tennessee bullies teams. That's their formula. That's what Rick did at Texas. They bully people. Defensively, they bully people. And they're used to people walking away from the fight. Kentucky pushed back the other night. Kentucky was down 8-0 early. And they just said, we're just kind of not going to take it. They out-rebounded Tennessee by 20 in Tennessee's building, which is just unheard of. And they won a game only making 7 field goals. Kentucky made 7 field goals in the second half and won a basketball game.
So I'm telling you.
That doesn't happen. It just doesn't. Right. That's called, I wanted it more than you did. I couldn't throw it in the ocean just like you couldn't throw it in the ocean. But every time there's a loose ball, I'm going to go get it and you're not. And I'm just going to beat you to the spot. And if it takes 3 shots to get a ball in, then we're going to get 3 shots at it to get a ball in. In terms of Barnes, and the points you're making about running the team into the ground, the thing they're doing this year that's interesting that I just want to put on both of your radar is they're playing a lot more people. And they're really dispersing their minutes. I think he's trying to be conscious of not burning his guys out this year. And he has the luxury of doing that. The issue for them right now, as I see it, and you talked about this, and he ran into this at times at Texas, and we were talking about the different reasons why. And Matt Dixon, who's on with me, had a really good thought today, which is his style of play is so team-oriented. And March games come down to who's my star player, who am I going to hand the ball to whom is the responsibility going to fall with 90 seconds left to get us home in this close game. And I'll be honest with you guys, on this basketball team this year, I don't think anybody, including the head coach, knows the answer to that question. That's not a good thing in mid-January when that's the case. They have a lot of good players. Do they have somebody with 90 seconds, 120 seconds that you give the ball to?
Yeah, and maybe they fall into that, Tony, as the year goes on. I think they will, because there are some stars on that team.
Yeah.
But you kind of got to let them be stars. And I can vividly remember, and I go back and be hard on myself, I was one of those guys that would want to beat you with structure, Tony.
Yep.
We're going to run this, and you can't stop it. And as I got older, I realized I need to be thinking more about how to get the ball to this guy and how to get the ball to this guy than just calling a play and beating you with structure. And I think sometimes that does happen to his teams because he is such a structured coach. He's such a disciplined guy. I would love for my kid to play for Coach Barnes. If I had a basketball player, because I think he teaches them the right thing. He teaches them to be tough. He teaches them to be team players, always put the team first. I just love all that about him. I think it'll work out, Tony. I think they're going to go further this year than they've been going, in my opinion. I just believe it'll work out as this year goes on.
Well, you nailed. You're like the prophet on my program. The prophet. I mean, we're going to have a reading from the Book of Watson tomorrow, George, and I'm going to share with people.
That book's 2 pages long.
Well, the prophet Watson Brown has said that team's going to go further this year, George. So
I think they are.
Let it be said.
I'm now for the Godfather.
Yes.
Give me a break.
Tony, you have not met the newest third person in our deal. Young guy from Arlington, Texas, Michael Cendrick.
Hey,
Michael was warned ahead of time. Get out before you get in, and he's still here.
Nice to meet you, Michael.
Tony, nice to meet you as well. Quick question for you. You talked about, one of the things you mentioned was the problem is that they've got, 8 to 10 guys and they're all good players, but who's the guy? Just from your perspective, whether you're at the game or you're watching from your house on TV and you're yelling at the TV with a minute and a half left, get it to, what do you want to see when you're ready to pull your hair out with Tennessee? Of who's the guy in your opinion, or what's the late game? Where do you want to see the ball go, and who do you kind of want to see take over the game?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, you would think that, Vescovi's their senior shooter. Problem with him is he can't get his own shot.
Yeah.
And so to Watson's point, you almost have to call a number. And that's kind of not what they do. Watson will appreciate this, and George will. You're kind of a young guy, but Ray Mears, I got to know him when I came back here and got on the radio in the 90s. And he pulled me aside one day and he said, "What do you think of the star system?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about, Coach, but if you want to educate me, I'm here." And he said, "Let me tell you something about the stars. When I coached, we had a star system." He said, "A lot of these coaches today won't do this because they don't have the guts." He said, "But I used to walk up to guys and say, your job's not to shoot the basketball. I don't want you shooting. The coach over there wants you shooting the ball. I don't want you shooting. I want him, and him shooting. And you guys are going to do what you're going to do out here. But you're not going to shoot. But you're not going to shoot." And sometimes I wonder, like Watson's talking about, sometimes I wonder if the game's better because these coaches all game plan around not wanting the better players to have the ball. Kentucky did a really smart thing the other day on Tennessee that nobody's done all year, which is they jumped out and defended 30 feet. And they used their length, and they said, if you're going to beat us, you're going to drive around us, but we're not going to let you guys get your open sets. We're not going to let you get in your rotations. We're not going to let you get comfortable. And it really worked on Tennessee. Again, Kentucky shot 30% from the floor, 31% won a game, making seven field goals in the second half. But they got the line a bunch, the Wildcats did, because they kind of outworked the Vols. In terms of who you put the ball in the hands of, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know.
Let me try you with this one then. Obviously, every player goes through improvement each year, right? Mm-hmm. When you're a senior like Vescovi, not that he didn't have more ceiling to grow in, but he's most likely going to be kind of the player that he is for the most part. Give me a young guy, or give me just a guy in general that you see, man, if he can make a step from where he's at now to a big step in a month or in 2 months, this could elevate Tennessee to, not a surefire Final Four. You can't just predict. You can't just go ahead and lock that in, but this could really make Tennessee an even more dangerous team.
Well, I'll give you two of them. One of them's a senior, Olivia Cumwa, who at times when he plays really well, they blow people out. Now, he was wallpaper Saturday. He drives the coaches crazy because he's so good, so athletic, so talented. He played on the summer circuit and played against high-level pros and played really well in the summer over in Europe in a European tournament. Was really good there. And he's had his moments here. He's had his moments this year. The second guy is Jonas Adu, who's a sophomore big man. The thing this staff really does is they develop players. This Plavsic guy, when he first got here as a transfer player from Arizona State, couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. He was really good over the weekend. Now, he's got his limitations. As well as he played, he only grabbed a couple of rebounds in that game. And he didn't get his first one until there was like 10 minutes left in the game. So he's just not, he kind of is what he is, sort of a stationary big body. This Jonas Adu guy has the ability to alter shots defensively. And on the offensive end, he can give him a little extra something. He can shoot the ball. He's getting more confident. And that's a guy I would watch. I think as his game grows, Tennessee's opportunities to do great things grow. The problem Tennessee has is they only have one true point guard on the roster, Zakai Ziegler, and he's a little guy, and he's going to wear down. And everybody knows that. Now, the key kid, who's a mid-state player, who they got from Indiana State out of the transfer portal last year, was more of a scorer at his level. They're trying to turn him into kind of a combo guard, and I don't think playing point guard is his thing. So Tennessee right now is a point guard short on this basketball team. It's where they are.
Okay, you want the best Ray Mears story in the history
Give me a Ray Mears
of Ray
story.
Mears
I love Ray. Yes.
Oh, you will love this one. So through CM Newton, I had gotten to know Coach Mears, after he left Tennessee, and Coach Newton, having fun, said George is one of these people that grew up throwing oranges at you because Tennessee Vandy game at Memorial Gym and when I was growing up could get ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, after I get back from Memphis State, this is in 1988, I'm doing a Sunday night show, a 2-hour kind of long form deal at the Box Seat in Green Hills. Ray Mears agrees to be the guest, and he is fabulous. The place is packed. So we get about an hour in, and I said, Coach, I want to ask you about the rivalry with Kentucky. You had the best record against Adolph Rupp of anybody. You were 14-14. Talk to me about the rivalry and why you had the success you did. So he starts in and he's telling me about, and he would talk loud. And so he's telling me, we had our moments because we did this, we did that, we did this. And all of a sudden there's a long pause and he goes, Kentucky, those bastards. And I just was like, oh my God, you do not hear that on live radio very often. And the place went nuts. And he never thought a thing about it.
Right.
You know how he was. Unfiltered.
I enjoyed him. I look back on that. Talk about things you don't appreciate when they're happening. He just befriended me. I was a kid. He enjoyed me because I kind of don't care and he doesn't care. And I think he enjoyed that. And we just kind of loved each other. And, I was just a kid. If I could do that all over again, man, I would have spent so much more time with that guy.
Good man.
Because truly, when you're a kid, you just think it's never going to end. You just think it's never going to end. Yeah. And he was just such a, he could just tell stories and he could just tell stories and he just, about all these old classic coaches and these experiences he had. And, my one wish would have been through time is if we would have had the drugs for depression that we have now. Yeah. Instead of the crude things that he had to go through, because he would tell me about the electroshock and the things they would have to do to him.
Yeah,
when he would get out of his body got out of whack, and he would have been absolutely amazing. I think he would have coached to the early '90s like Dean Smith did, because they were roughly around the same age.
Right.
And I think he would have been unbelievably known right now because of the ESPN age. Imagine if Ray Mears' games,
oh my God,
would have been on early cable with the unicycles and the Dick Vitale and the juggler
chairs
and the coming out. He told me about Nashville one time, George. He said, Tony, I used to love coming out there by myself and having them throw things at me. He said, one time I stood on the chair down there. He said, I loved inciting those people. He said, I had so much fun with those people.
And he did. Thank you for sharing all this stuff.
Thank you, guys.
You take care. We'll do it again next week.
Appreciate you guys.
Holler at me, Tony.
You got it, brother.
Call, babe.
You got it. Thank you.
See ya.